Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Work With Me stream. It is I, Chris, the DeFi professor, here to kind of go over what I normally talk about during my Monday streams, where I talk about what's going on in the world of Web3, DeFi, decentralized finance, and crypto, digital assets, and I give you kind of my takes and my thoughts about everything that's going on. Just give me a second. I'm in the middle of getting the word out. Hopefully everyone had a great weekend. And let's see. I like that. I really should have been more prepared for this, but it's Monday. Anybody else got a case of the Mondays? A little bright. I'm gonna unbrighten myself here. There you go. Fairly productive weekend. Sorry for the dead air. I actually have been doing a lot of work with my agentic swarms, trying to do workflows. I built a clipper for my content, which I think is, I'm in the middle of testing right now, so I'll be having like floods of uploads of video clips of content I've done over the last 6 months. That you'll see on a lot of different spots. So hopefully it works out well. But shout out to Uniswap. Uniswap Labs got this in New York last year. Shout out to Uniswap. Big fan of the colors black and pink. Also a big fan of Blackpink. Shout out to those 4 fantastic individuals. Rose, Jenny, Jisoo, and Lisa. Okay. Well, we normally go through different articles here, but we're going to talk about a couple different things today. So let me go ahead and get to my little screen so I can move forward. And I was just reading this article on, well, Radiant Capital winds down to a $2 million husk 20 months after the DPRK linked $15 million heist. Interestingly enough, and I know that this is somewhat ironic and I guess you could call it counterintuitive, but the fact that DPRK stands for the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Is it? Is it? And I apologize if there are any North Koreans here that are watching and they feel that that is a very accurate portrayal of the way that a lot of the things in their country work. If it is a democratic people's republic, good on you. Anyway, it's been a long time. It's nearly 2 years since the Radiant exploit. And unlike Thorchain's TCY initiative, it looks like that Radiant's Riz markets on multiple chains are not going well. Now, I know multiple people who unfortunately were affected by this, which was a North Korean exploit that just kind of took down what was a very, very promising protocol. No doubt about it. It looks like Binance has delisted the token as of today. So, that's not a good sign because a lot of the CEX traffic for Radiant was happening on Binance. So this pretty much is just the final nail in the coffin. Now, I just checked the Discord. It looks like nothing else has really changed. First payouts for the convenience class claimants were targeted for Q3 or Q4 of last year. They slipped, and the working capital eroded alongside its TVL. Damn. That is not good. Not good at all. Not much to really say on that, unfortunately. That's unfortunate. Don't know if there's anything else that can be done, so that's kind of where we're at. Anyway, back to the crypto articles. This was at the top. That was today, about 40 minutes ago. Okay, so let's look at other things that are going on. KelpDAO hackers laundered nearly all of the unfrozen funds. Not shocking. Did it through Thorchain. House of Doge and Paxos strike a deal to push Dogecoin onto PayPal, Venmo, and other interactive brokers' rails. So Paxos is the custodian for PayPal USD, PYUSD. So this is actually a pretty big deal to have Dogecoin onto PayPal, Venmo, and interactive brokers. Very curious to see exactly how this is going to work out. But this is good for yellow, right? Anything for yellow at this point. I mean, this just strengthens the resolve and also the the reach of Doge as a coin. If we look at the market's pretty not looking fantastic. There's a couple of reasons for this. The first is, well, half of it is going to be because of what I think it was the Kobe EC letter posted. Let's get a new let's get it. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Not a new space. New tab, there we go. Interesting. Just more news coming about Anthropic's IPO draft. I mean, we're looking at two gigantic companies when you include SpaceX as well. Wow. That would be a projection. Right. So, where was it? Yeah, so it looks like Iran is backing out of the negotiation. Now, I talked about this last week, right? It is very weird. This is beyond catastrophic, I think, moving forward. Mainly because I don't think a deal gets done at all. This is just theater at this point. Micron, wow, $1,000 a share. which is kind of crazy considering the shortages and everything going on. But when you feed things and shift your business model towards mainly B2B as opposed to B2C with RAM, that happens. Again, this is just pure manipulation, continued manipulation. Iran says they're backing out. There will be no more talks. The president of the United States says, actually, there's talks are back on, guys. After talking to Prime Minister Netanyahu, with no troops going to Beirut. Yeah, this is straight market manipulation at this point. To me, there's something significant's going to happen, unfortunately, because at this point, based on what you read, Iran has enough drones to continue to just hold out, and it's just going to punish the rest of the world. June 1st, right? So we're in a stage in the next 3 weeks where if that strait does not open, countries are going to have to shut down energy in some way or another, or figure out something else. Not saying that India, half of Southeast Asia, Australia, the EU, that they don't have options with working on what's going to happen here. But if you think about it in a weird way, it's just an unbelievable situation where we went from, let's just call it a more peaceful process in a world where renewable energy was starting to thrive, right? I'm not saying this to be like politically in any one direction, just from what was out there. We were on the road to possibly being very solar heavy, very wind heavy, alternative, more greener options heavy with regards to world industries. And this is what happens when you have a dependence on oil, right? And it's not just oil. Let me be forthcoming about that. We're talking about fertilizers. We're talking about liquid gases, natural gases, all kinds of things that can be affected. Sorry, my kids are coming in. I think they're just painting the sidewalk with some painting chalk I got them today when we had lunch together. It's a very scary thought about what it's going to look like when large countries, even countries like India, have to shut down the amount of cooking oil and propane, cooking gas that they put out, because there just hasn't been enough coming through the strait. Again, everybody to the west of the strait seems to be okay. EU kind of has their thing. The interesting part here is that there are different types of oil across the world, right? U.S. oil can't, the shale product can't necessarily be easily at scale refined for use around the rest of the world. Neither is the Venezuelan oil. The light crude that comes out of the Middle East is actually a pretty decently refined product. Will we get to a point where things are fine? Yes, but it's going to take months to get there now. More than 6 months. Past the end of this year, we're going to see some real pain, not just at the pump, but in consumer things, all kinds of other things. It's a huge ripple effect from what was essentially just some posturing. So, my worry now is exactly what is. How do you back out of a blood war, I guess is the word I would use here, right? Because this conflict is not a recent conflict. We're talking about two countries that isn't the U.S., by the way. We're talking about Israel and Iran. Even though the country of Israel has only been around for 70 years, technically as the state, right? I think that the religious and the ideological conflict goes back much further. We're talking way, way further. And by proxy, this is all just going to melt down at some point. The problem is, how exactly will the U.S. help police this? That's something I can't answer, especially after the actions that have already been taken. But it's now going to take either a supreme act of humility to reopen that strait to where it was, or a supreme act of force. And it's all a matter of what that's going to be. The markets are going to be reacting to it regardless. So really just hunker down, lock in. There's some people who are going to be very rich off of this because they follow specific insider signals, and I've already been seeing on the timeline. Obviously, I'm not here to make calls. I'm not here to shill any specific coin. That's not my style. But I will say, just be very careful out there. It is very easy to lose the money you make very quickly, and if you're not taking profits regularly, you are losing that battle. Do check out Friday's Beat the Banks podcast here also on my socials, where I talk about specifically about crypto cards and what you can do to spend all of that stuff, which is probably a pretty good idea. All right. Let's move on to the news. So again, House of Doge, good stuff there. All right, so TON is being renamed to Gram over the next 3 weeks. Revives the 2018 white paper named the SEC block 6 years ago. Interesting. We'll grab that. Although I could probably just find it on X. Tacit, a new take on confidential Bitcoin DeFi. Confidential tokens and anonymous mixer are private ANMM and trustless wrap all in the Bitcoin layer 1. You know how people do love a wrapped BTC, right? They don't. Okay. So it's a meta protocol built on top of Bitcoin. I know a couple of different meta protocols that are built on top of Bitcoin layer 1. Well, it'll be interesting to see how they interesting. Did all of this through vibe coding. I saw that there was someone who's on Twitter who vibe coded their own Bitcoin wallet. They sent money to it and everything. I'll be interested to see how this kind of works out. Mainly because in a world full of vibe coding, right? And this is something I've personally done. I've vibe coded quite a few things over the last 8 months that I'm looking to, hopefully start to figure out a way to profit off of. But a lot of it is just tools for myself. So a lot of things that you can vibe code that are tools for yourself, like creating your own Bitcoin wallet, your own self-custody wallet, stuff like that. That's all really cool projects you can consider as a way to create some bespoke vibe coded products for really just your sanity. And because it's hard, like we're in such an age where it's like, if you don't like it, just build it. You can totally do that now. Right? Shout out to Andrew Duca from Partners of Beacon DeFi at Awaken, because he didn't like the options that were out there for crypto tax reporting, so he made his own. And I think there's like a couple million lines of code in the code base now, but he's the ultimate doing that. But vibe coding has changed a lot of that for everyday people, right? It's like, I don't like my wallet. Fine, I'll use vibe coding and build a new one. You can do that now. You can do that on EVM because MetaMask code is open source, right? It's like, hey, here's MetaMask code. I don't like the way this works. I want this, 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 and this. Make that wallet for me. And you could probably get that done. Yeah, it's really just more a matter of, once you create something, then it's a matter of integration. And I think that's the other part too that a lot of people don't have the true knowledge of. It's like, yes, I vibe coded this, but how do I use this? That's the other part that's going to be the difficult part, right? But once that pipeline gets sewn up so that it can be deployed on app things, and again, that's what you can do now with things like Vercel, Lovable, Bolt. Shout out to those teams for putting together lots of really cool platforms like that. Yeah, and that's just a tangent from this, but whatever. Sailor Strategy sold Bitcoin for the first time since 2022. These firms are still buying. They've already mentioned why they were selling some Bitcoin, so not a huge deal. It's a good thing. Really. Bitwise completes takeover of Superstate's $259 crypto carry fund. Interesting. That could be interesting. I'll have to talk to someone at Bitwise about this one. Report about a 4% yield for a carry fund. It does market neutral crypto trading strategies to generate yield. Obviously, you have to KYC for this, if you didn't realize. Tether ships Turbo Quant to bring long context AI local. This is something they had talked about previously. And we'll talk a little bit about the RTX Spark in just a minute. Strive eyes a $4.2 billion war chest to ramp up Bitcoin accumulation. Okay. So, more digital asset treasury company stuff. Are Ethereum OGs jumping ship? Here's what the data says. What does Cointelegraph say here? I mean, the market is down, right? Let's not hold back on that. Although BNB is catching bids. I saw this the other day. People are starting to buy BNB thinking it could make another run at 1300. So maybe something to consider. XRP at $1.29. Sol back under the $90 target. Obviously, we're a long way away from 250 and 300. But everything seems to be down, except for another all-time high for Hyperliquid. This is something we've talked about for a very long time. Very bullish on Hype, very bullish on the fees they're generating, the product market fit. They have not only the spot market, the perps market, the outcomes market, which is, there will be an attack on Polymarket and Kalshi, Orderly, Limitless, everything else that's out there right now. Hype has the power, in my opinion, to upset all of those apple carts. So Zcash back to 553. I mean, the data doesn't tell us a whole lot. That's basically what it is. Right. So Cardano community votes down votes down the budget, guys. So there won't be a Cardano event this year. Which I'm guessing. I mean, it all depends on how you feel. about how these events are run. Do you think it's a great idea that that they do this? Do you think it's worthy of the community? These are things you kind of have to figure out. I mean, it obviously the people have spoken because they need to get more than 67% to even release the funds. So clearly they want Cardano to save their money. I'm sure that they could put together an event that people could pay for and whatever. Citi projects 5.5 trillion in tokenized securities market by 3.5 years from now. As the DTCC, NASDAQ, and ICE move on chain. This looks very AI. I mean, I don't even know what that is. What is that? Defiant, what are you guys doing? All right. Let's see. June 1st, by the way, speaking of the market crashing, today's the day that Japan's bonds go up to 1%. So that probably has an effect on the world economy as well. Plus the liquidation cascade, not great. MEXC unveils real stocks with zero fee U.S. equity trading and real dividends. How are you going to make that happen? I'm curious. Let's look. All right, so they did have a beta. I'm not a MEXC. I have a MEXC account. I'm not an active user on there, so. Okay, so through their licensed broker partner Atomic Vaults, eligible users can purchase shares in real U.S. listed companies. Interesting. Nobody proofread that. With genuine market exposure and liquidity consistent with traditional U.S. equity markets where applicable, users are entitled to dividends or distributions on their holdings. Users transact in USDT, as is normal in non-US CEX. Atomic Vaults is backed by Founders Fund and ARK Invest, so there's plenty of stuff there. They do have support for 24/5 trading. I'm just curious about how you get your dividends. That's what I'm curious about. How do you get your dividends? How often do you get them? If they had real stocks for Coca-Cola, for Walgreens, for Costco, or any of the other aristocrat dividend funds, or dividend stocks, how do you get your dividends? That's what I'm curious about, and that's something you probably want to look at as well. All right, so Jamie Dimon continues to just dog and pony show himself out there, talking about how Brian Armstrong is full of shit and that there's the banks will fight the Clarity Act tooth and nail because they're just going to lose money. Shock. Yet he has a company that's a subsidiary called Connexus that's been in existence for in excess of 5 years now. It used to be called Onyx by JP Morgan, where they have blockchain-based crypto stuff. They have their own stablecoin called JPMD, which was put out on Base blockchain, which is Coinbase's layer 2. Again, the master of talking out both sides of his mouth. Senator Lummis warned that stalling the Clarity Act now means no crypto regulation until 2030. That's most likely correct. Yeah, I mean, they didn't get this done before the recess. I mean, I would love for them to have gotten this done, but you guys, anyone who follows my content has known the entire year after we passed February, I'm like, this thing is not getting done. Because now they're getting ready for the midterms, which frankly at this point they're most likely going to lose on the Republican side. The Clarity Act is how America leads and how we ensure adversaries don't write the rules of the next financial era. I mean, let's be honest here. Asia doesn't have any rules for this. There's no framework. I mean, I take that back. Vietnam has a framework. Malaysia or Thailand? One of them have a framework. EU has a framework. China, quote unquote, bans crypto unless you're in the special economic zone of Hong Kong, which is where the majority of people have gone for a license anyway. So let's kind of break this down. Your thoughts. In the event that the United States doesn't pass Clarity, and then all of a sudden, I think Russia also banned crypto, right? Unless it was like state-sponsored crypto. But then you have smaller countries like Kazakhstan, Pakistan, all of these other countries. In the event that everyone else can band together and create some type of framework that the rest of the world recognizes, and the U.S. can't get this done, does Trump sell everything and go home and say that crypto's a scam again? Could you imagine if he did that? Oh my goodness. I'm not saying that's going to happen because he's got way too much skin in the game now. And he's got all kinds of registered things, so he just can't do it. But if he just calls it like not legitimate because the U.S. is not the leader in it anymore because of just all of the dragging that happened here. I mean, what do you do? It's just it's a bit scary. Now, with that said, I mean, the SEC and the CFTC have come together. Michael Seelig from the CFTC, Paul Atkins from the SEC. They've come together. They've put together some really good policy decisions, in my opinion. And this is all, for the most part, a lot of what people are looking for. But the problem is that they can be undone by an incoming administration, right? The idea here is that we want to be in a position where there are amendments the ability to have bills ratified, put into the system, so that it takes a monumental act to repeal them, and makes it much easier to build amendments on top. That's why the Clarity Act needs to come through. Hasn't really changed much in the EU, in my personal opinion. There's not a lot of building going. I mean, there is a lot of building, obviously, but with Mika and what they're doing there, no one's really like proclaiming it that of what it is. Yeah, Project Guardian. Talked about that a couple of years ago. Through Singapore. Vara in Dubai, I mean, everyone's had to go and pull a license for that, right? So, we'll see exactly what happens. We have CME futures now. That started on Friday. So now we have 24/7 futures available on a major U.S. exchange, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, CME. The problem is, that's about all it's going to get at this point. Because if they can't get on the floor to vote, then nothing's going to happen, right? BitGo CEO warns of massive stablecoin crisis as Europe's Mika crypto deadline looms. What is Mike Belshi saying now? Oh. Okay. Well, USDT has never been approved to be inside of the EU. They can't get in the US either. Justin's son moved Tron into a US company to try and work that in, but then they ended up coming up with their own compliant American version, which is USAT, which Bo Hines, who used to be, there in the White House working for the president, is now the head of USAT, or at least one of the main advisors for them. A liquidity crisis could be a problem. EU deposit insurance caps at €100,000 per depositor. I mean, they're not really in the EU anyway. We'll see. I mean, this is a very interesting development, right? Now, to its credit, Circle already has a MiCA compliant custody license. Who else has one? Is it USDT or is it Athena? No, Kraken. One of the big companies has a Portuguese subsidiary that they acquired that already had the regulatory compliance. It's not Circle. I mean, there's a third one, a smaller stablecoin issuer. So delist USDT or risk regulatory. I mean, this is already something that's been done. You can't really get USDT on Coinbase, right? Or you can, but like WBTC from BitGo, because they have their own CBBTC. There's no reason to hold it. Okay. SUI continuing to have outages. This is not a good sign. I mean, this is not the this is a pretty shaky track record they've had in the last 12 months. Exponent launches V2. I'm assuming that's the Exponent being the Solana market. Yeah. So their new market's out. Interest rate order book and a rate CLMM. Risk tranching swaps backed by 200K plus rewards campaign at launch. I'll have to look at that. Morpho is now on Kaya chain with Featherland curating vaults and Redstone providing oracles. Kaya being the chain with Clayton and Cacao. It's a Korean Asian hybrid. Looked at the Morpho Midnight white paper already. Did that on our Friday town hall. We'll see exactly how that plays. Say published the Giga roadmap for 200,000 TPS and sub 400 millisecond finality through their parallel consensus called Autobahn and a rebuild. I mean, Say's continuing to provide the goods. They're getting more and more institutional partnerships on Say, and that's what Say needs. Say needs that, right? Just like Canton Network also needs that. Okay, so Base Azul is now it's now deployed. That was last week. We'll see exactly how much cheaper Base is soon. But on the surface, it shouldn't really be any different for anyone currently using Base. I'd have to look into it. But if anybody has any comments on that, feel free to let me know. DeFi Saver, 15% plus stablecoin yields. How'd that happen? Uh-oh, Fluid lost coins after an attacker on a compromised key. That's never good. Gravity Bridge. Man, I haven't used the Gravity Bridge in a million years. Oh no. Oh no, this is bad. Worthless tokens minted on the Cosmos side being mistakenly processed as legitimate ERC20 withdrawals on Ethereum. Ooh, that's bad. Zama got a huge PR win, I guess, if you want to call it that. It's a privacy-focused chain wrapper on Ethereum. I had never used or even heard of Zama until this actually became a thing. Because of USDC Circle getting a judge to allow a freeze on a smart contract. This is the problem with centralized stablecoins like Tether, like Circle, with USDC and USDT. They can get I mean, they always have they have the ability to blacklist and freeze anything they want. By the way, that's programmable money 101. The thing is that USDC was not willing to do it without some sort of judge order, which is why people that were screwed on the drift and the Kelp DAO incident, right? Because North Korea knew that and then they knew this. They knew that because of the unwillingness, most likely the unwillingness of Circle to take action, that they could exploit that timing loophole. Because for them, it wasn't a matter of if, it's when, because it's a timing thing. They knew they weren't going to do anything, so they went ahead and did the exploit and used USDC for the majority of it. Anyway, this is the issues list is depressing. Oh wow, Resolve has published its full recovery framework. I need to grab that. So eligible users have to claim in the Resolve app. So you're getting a haircut, but at least it's better than nothing. Okay. Stake DAO was exploited last week. Ventuals reported an Oracle malfunction on its SpaceX pre. Okay, so Ventuals is a HIP-3 builder perp market. So they had an Oracle quote-unquote malfunction, and they are assessing compensation for affected users. Again, SpaceX is not out, so this is pre-market. This is pre-market stuff. New market trading was exploited for approximately 3 million. All right, so they had a wrapping module that wrapped the integration. That's where the bug was. And, you know, if you've never heard of half of these, that's fine. There's a lot of people that don't necessarily know what a lot of these protocols are either. There's a lot of protocols that are smaller that are hard to just kind of get into. White Hat developer unlocks $2 million in a 2016 Ethereum ICO contract. Good for him. Give that man a bounty for that. That's a lot of money. Let's keep moving. Not a whole lot of news from the weekend, honestly. I mean, this is such a clickbait headline, right? I don't know how China will write the rules of new financial era. I'd have to understand why she even said that. Really, Wintermute is now quoting prediction markets. Interesting. Now providing two-sided liquidity on predict. This is big news, guys. Actually, that's actually huge news. Now it sucks because Wintermute can be such a pillar. We'll use the word pillar. SEC charges Texas man with 12.3 million crypto fraud using fake AI trading bots. Wow. That's unfortunate. U.S. has seized nearly 1 billion Iranian crypto treasury. Notice how Besant didn't actually say what the assets were, right? Because you can't just seize Bitcoin wallets, right? Unless you actually have all the private keys, which, let's be honest, they could have. Now, if they actually have this in their possession, are they going to do the thing where they fill $1 billion in the Bitcoin strategic reserve? Because that's part of the idea, right? It has to be seized assets that goes into the thing, and they won't sell it for 20 years. Wink, wink. Yeah, outside the CME stuff launching, their 24/7 crypto, there really wasn't a whole lot of other news. So this is Jeff Sprecher, the ICE, or the Intercontinental Exchange. Sorry, not that ICE, the other ICE. He calls Hyperliquid bigger than NASDAQ. That's kind of a huge statement, right? Considering his position as head of the company that oversees the New York Stock Exchange. So, I mean, hopefully you bought some hype. Not financial advice, do your own research. This is cool. I saw this yesterday. Someone inscribed the entire Constitution into the metadata on a specific SAT. That's not bad. Only cost them $83. Processed by Spiderpool 14 minutes after it hit the network. Now, it is a large transaction, 44.4 KB. Put it into the op return field. Yeah, so the change, which was still being talked about when I was in Vegas, not this year, but last year, hadn't been put through yet. So now that it's through, now this is a thing. Op return is going to be used from a metadata standpoint for a lot of things. Like, op return wasn't used for the person who put the video game emulator on a SAT, but now that's for the most part old news. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I'll just save it because I don't think I have it in my bookmarks, but if I don't, I will. All right, Paxos wins SEC approval to clear stocks on the U.S. blockchain. Let's see what this is about. Man, I'm jealous of that man's hair. Look at Charles Cascarilla. Look at that hair. Good for him. It's a nice taper he's got there. All right, let's talk about some other things. What's this? Ripple XRP delisting rumors debunked? Okay, so it's just FUD. Yeah, I mean, the DTCC can settle transactions anywhere it wants. Doesn't have to be Stellar. So. Yeah, that's just someone trying to farm engagement. Okay, so let's look at our Google News. I should probably go back to what it was before this. Yeah, Jamie Dimon. Binance launches trading for 7,000 US stocks and ETFs. This is a big deal. My guess this is for Binance.com and not Binance.us. $24.5, so it's 24 hours on the weekdays. Weekends will not. And again, it's just more for extended hours trading. Does it really change a lot of things? Not really. Not in my opinion. Illinois Democrats passed $56 billion state budget that includes new taxes on prediction markets and crypto. That's interesting. Also dings digital advertising revenue. I mean, this is a very interesting statement. We've constructed a budget that meets most people's pressing needs, including key investments that allow Illinois to move forward in areas where Washington has chosen to retreat. That's Robin Gable from Evanston, Illinois. The uncertainty in Washington and the resulting affordability crisis facing families has emphasized our need to be surgical in our approach to building this budget. Illinoisan. That's the word for someone from Illinois? Interesting. Illinoisan. Learn something new every day. There we go. Property tax relief raises for state legislators. Cell phone ban in schools. Anyway, I'm not gonna harp too much about this. That's interesting that they're gonna tax crypto and prediction markets. And this is where Hyperliquid has the advantage, right? That to me, this is the part that gives them the advantage because Hyperliquid is non-sovereign. It is in decentralized finance where Polymarket and Kalshi are fighting the quote-unquote mainstream optics, right? They're getting sued in lawsuits left and right. Hyperliquid has had nothing. Granted, Hyperliquid doesn't have a whole lot of markets right now in the prediction market, the outcome market. craze, but that's going to be changing very soon. In a world where it's non-sovereign, that you won't be able to get taxed on stuff like that because no country owns what's on Hyperliquid. So I do think that there's a huge product market fit, PMF, for Hyperliquid in this case, because they most likely will not be going mainstream per se, the way that Polymarket and Kalshi have, right? Like, I have friends on Facebook talking about Kalshi and putting the ref code up there saying, we both get $25 if you sign up and bet with me on different types of events. I'm just like, it's a fun play, right? But is it sustainable in the long run? I guess we'll have to see. But the fact that people on Facebook are giving ref codes left and right, it's a good sign for prediction markets, in my personal opinion. So we'll see. Even though Sailor sold, Tom Lee continues to buy. Tom Lee says crypto investors are rage quitting after Mark Cuban dumped all his Bitcoin. I don't know if that's the case. But, I mean, I think the geopolitical uncertainty has a lot to do with what's going on, more than anything. All right, I did want to talk about a couple more things, but before that, just want to say thank you very much for following along, and feel free to check out my Twitter, x.com/csoriano. You can go to flix.fun /@csoriano, or just look up the DeFi Professor on multiple places, and you can get to my creator homepage here. Appreciate the support. Looking to, I need to put, I'm the DeFi Professor just about everywhere except for Twitter, which is my first initial last name. I guess I should probably change that at some point. Maybe for consistency. Also on Rumble, need a couple more followers on Rumble. Need more followers on Facebook. So if you like what you're hearing, please help me out there. Would really appreciate that. And yeah, putting together some more content. Like I said, I was vibe coding a podcast clipper, which will help me out tremendously with getting more and more stuff online. Okay, let's talk about RTX Spark. So, what is RTX Spark? It's a new chip. This NVIDIA, this is I think Computex is right now, yep. And that's where they've talked about it. Now, that's clickbaity. The laptop hasn't changed in 30 years, and NVIDIA just changed it. That's not true. You can make the absolute claim that the Chromebook has changed laptops very much so in the last 10 years. But the one place, and to be completely transparent, I have an Apple MacBook M1 Max with 32 gigs of RAM that I love very much, that I still use. I'm using it to broadcast to you today. But this RTX Spark is a new chip created by NVIDIA and Microsoft. It has a GPU CPU combo, much like the Apple M series, right? 128 gigs of unified memory. Has the full NVIDIA stack built in, which means you don't have to worry about getting a discrete GPU. Also, you don't have to worry about well, there's a lot of things you don't have to worry about, because everything they've put together all in this all-in-one chip, which is interesting to see how they're going to manufacture these fabs. Now, the fact that Jensen Huang went to China with President Trump tells me they're going to be doing a lot of this work, at least the assembly work, probably in the U.S. at their factories. But to have all of this in one package, much to the chagrin of what Apple has been doing, dominating the laptop market for the last multiple number of years. This is probably the first time that I've felt a disturbance in the MacBook Force. This could bring, now I'm not going to use Windows on this. I'll be honest. I have an NVIDIA GPU full system that runs on Linux, sitting right here next to me, that does all of all my local development and inference and stuff that I'm building, whether I'm hand coding or vibe coding, it's all stored on this box. It's cool to see this type of thing. We don't have a price on this, but this will be coming in the fall of this year. Much like they talked about the Denver processor so long ago, which was, I guess, the precursor to the Surface Go products from Microsoft, where they had an ARM-based processor. So here's the thing too. It's like, can Windows deal with an ARM processor? I'm guessing that they're going to have to, right? So for many years they didn't. They used an Intel. Or just, Intel, AMD, any other groups that come out with processors that are not ARM-based. So I'm very curious to see exactly how this works out. Because I'm if they can put this into, this is a huge amount of, Blackwell is just ridiculous anyway. It always has been. But if they're able to put this in, let's just be honest, this is never going to be affordable, right? Because let me see if I can find that tweet. Where was it? Yeah, this NVIDIA DGX box. Let me find it. I've seen a couple people try and post this under weird pretenses, which to me is still weird. So here's the thing. You have to spend $3K for this box. Now, if they can bring the price of this Spark box down, this DGX box, down below $1,500, and they still figure out a way to pay for everyone's inference for it, yeah, so this is a year ago. This is chunky. This is an NVIDIA GB10 Grace Blackwell super chip, a petaflop of AI throughput, which is ridiculous, with a 20-core ARM processor, the GPU, 128 gigs of LPDDR5X memory. That's expensive as hell right now. 4 terabytes of storage, self-encrypting. That's interesting. And you can daisy chain them if you needed to. I guess 2 into 1. 150 watts under load is... but a very small footprint. So $3K for one of these DGX boxes. Clears its own cost in about 1.6 months. Now, whether or not it's going to they're actually going to continue to pay for inference on this is the other part of the story. I talked about that box last week with Span, where you bolt. It's an AC unit that's going to be used to have your own data center in your backyard that you pay $150 a month for, but they pay for your internet and utility bills because you have this box on your property. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to pay for that, by the way, and no idea when it comes to your neighborhood because they're still only offering it to Pulte Homes properties, which I think is mostly in Texas. So I'll be very curious to see how this kind of plays out. But yeah, I know people they're really against data centers, but if you were able just to have a very small one on your property, is that something that you would be interested in? Especially if they paid for your internet as well as your electricity bill. I mean, you pay $150 a month, and they pay for two of the most expensive utilities that you're most likely going to use. Yeah, I think that's probably the trade-off that most people today would probably take without having to worry about the issue of data centers being built in their backyard. What's interesting about this is I'm surprised that Elon didn't do this for solar, right? Because this was at Starbase that they had this conversation. And I'm just wondering, why did Elon not do this for solar? Because he showed in multiple keynotes that he just have to have enough solar panels on buildings in a commercial area. I think it's like 10 miles or something like that was the actual. It's a very small amount of the U.S. is large, but in terms of the actual amount of land needed to actually power the entire country, it didn't seem like it was that big of a difference. I don't think most people really understand how much savings you really can have with a solar plus battery configuration, where if the majority of your electricity runs off the battery first and then the grid, the amount of money you'll be saving a month in electricity is actually quite staggering. You just have to figure out a way to get that up front. Now, if there are companies who are willing just to get the distribution to then build a portfolio of users that way, I'm actually surprised no one's really done it yet. And maybe they have and they just couldn't get the traction. But if someone came up to me and was like, hey, we will give this to you, you just have to use us for a year, I'd probably do it, honestly, because I know that the cost savings that's there is going to be massive, to the point where if they come back and say, all right, well, you can continue to use it, but now you have to pay us $500 a year, I'd probably still say yes, because the amount of money I've saved throughout that year of not having to pay for electricity. In fact, I'm probably giving the electricity back to the grid in clean power. All right, I've rambled on long enough. That's all I had for today. Not a ton of news on the crypto side, but there's a lot of news coming on the AI side. And I think that's something that is probably worth experimenting with for a little bit. Now, I did have something else here because I am looking for something better than AirPods, because I do have this older, this is the case for it. It's a lovely little, you can see that, right? There you go. It's cute. These are AirPod Gen 2, not Pros, just Gen 2. My wife has a pair of AirPod Pro 2s that I bought her. I don't care for them. I think that the battery life is worse on them than I get on these, and maybe I'm just fooling myself. But overall, I've enjoyed the experience with the Pro 2, with the regular 2s. However, they're getting the Pro 2s are getting some really nice upgrades. My wife hasn't used hers in forever, so I may just take them back. But we'll see. But they're getting a lot of good software upgrades. Like you can have them tuned so that they are official hearing aids, which I think is amazing. But I'd probably want to get one with the newer H2 chip in them, because I don't care about, I personally don't care about active noise cancellation. In fact, the Nothing Ear A, and I could just have a whole thing about about just looking at earbuds. I was this close to paying full price for the AirPods 4, but then I found these deals. Yeah, AirPods 4 Like, see, I don't care about ANC at $99. And that's a better deal in my opinion. The thing about these that I want to change is the fact that they're Lightning. It's the last thing that I have outside of my kids' iPads that are still Lightning. So I would prefer a USB-C option to charge them. They still charge wirelessly. I charge these things wirelessly, so maybe that's the moot point too. That's a really good deal at Amazon. That's a really strong deal at Amazon, actually. Yeah, the H2 chip. Alright, so that wasn't quite exactly what I thought that it was going to be. Oh, they have better Bluetooth. Yes, I know that Sony earbuds are better than AirPods. I have no reason to recommend Max 2s to anybody. And the Nothing Gear A's were on sale. I really do like the look of these, by the way. Let's see. It was a Memorial Day sale for like, I want to say it was yeah, they were $59. I don't think that they're still that price. Yeah, they're not. They're $79 now. But it's still not a bad deal in my personal opinion. They look great. The new Nothing I don't care for. I mean, they're okay. But yeah, I ask people all the time how they like them. They love them, and they work well with they work well with iPhones. I will say, I love the fact that with my AirPods I can just go between devices, because I have an iPad mini, I have a MacBook, I have an iPhone. I like that they can go between things. They get a little confused after a while, and again, these are AirPod 2, so maybe the new H2 chip is much stronger. I don't specifically think that I necessarily need that function as much as I thought I did. You know, because it's a cool idea, but it's not like, oh my gosh, I need them to pair immediately. Because I have a couple other pairs that I have. Like I have these old MPOW M96s. They're also great. I actually have them. They pair to my Retroid Pocket 5, my handheld gaming PC, and they sound great. They sound great. They pair right away. Again, 42.5 hours total. I saw that the AirPods 2 only last 4 hours on a charge, which it said that the AirPod 2s, the AirPod Pro 2s, won't go for 6 hours. I'm like, I didn't have that experience. So if anybody else does, maybe I just have a dud, a pair of duds. Anyway. Should we do some reacts? I haven't quite decided if I want to react. Nah. I do have some work to do. I'll probably react maybe later tomorrow. I haven't done a react stream in a little bit, but definitely want to do some more interesting reacts. I have my research swarm looking for clips for me to react to now too, so should be a good time. Anyway, hopefully found value. Would appreciate any follows that you give, and we'll see you next time. Be safe out there. Man, the world is in an interesting state right now. Like I said, it's either going to be a severe act of humility by one side or a severe act of force. And as much as the humility part is going to suck, to be honest, because it's going to just ruin a lot of legacy. regardless of how you look at it. It's just not a pleasant. It's not a positive situation. So, all right. I'll see you guys later. Have a great day. Oh, 07.